Hello, everybody, and welcome in to another episode of the Couch GMs podcast. It is Thursday, March 27th, 2025. I'm your host, George Kerr, joined by the one and only Cody Roadcap. Happy opening day, first off.
Ooh, 190 more games to go. Let me get excited.
Not quite that many, but you're pretty close. Okay. And happy start of draft season, which I know is your favorite season on the NFL calendar.
Yeah, it's definitely up there on the NFL calendar. Excited for the draft. We're less than 1 month away. It is eating at my heart every day. Every time I see a new thing about the draft being Green Bay that I don't currently have intentions of being there, it's really working the soul. And I know I roasted baseball. I will say opening day baseball is great, but after tomorrow, like let me catch back up in September.
I 100% get that. It's a long grind of a season, but something about opening day in baseball just feels like spring. So
Yeah. Hot dog, a cold one, ballpark. It doesn't get much better than that. I will say that.
best leisure activity in the spring and summer. But anyway, we're here to talk football. That was our 30 seconds of baseball podcast. Make sure you follow us at the Couch GMs, Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok to get even more than you do from the show, and to vote on our best fantasy player ever bracket. Round 2 starts tonight. The round 1 results are up there, so make sure you go check it out and see if any upsets occurred. I'm not going to tease anything here.
I was going to say there's some good round 2 matchups, but you don't want to tease it, so I guess we won't talk about it.
I want to make people go to the social media channels. So make sure you check us out at the Couch GMs. You can always DM us with any questions or comments you have going in there, or just comment on our posts or on our lives Thursdays at 6:30 East. Lot to get into today, Cody. We're doing something fun, but why don't we first say what's happening? First off, big quarterback news. Russell Wilson made his decision on his team for 2025, and he is going to the New York Giants. Jameis Winston had a starting job locked up for about a week, and I was excited about it. Now it's going to be a battle between him and Russ. I would assume Russ gets the starting job based on the money, but if I had to ask you right now who would be the better starting quarterback, would it at least be a conversation between Russ and Winston?
I mean, I think it is going to be a conversation, and they'll let Russ, start. Winston has shown he's an entertainer. He's a lot of fun, but he has the turnover issues, and that's always going to be a hamper for him. So when you see the two contracts, it's definitely Winston is the backup, Russ is the starter. And I don't think we can rule out a quarterback at number 3 either.
That'd be interesting to bring another guy in the room with the two veterans to see how it shakes out, especially when someone takes a quarterback that high in today's NFL. You don't expect them to sit back there, especially behind two guys, for long. So interesting they put the money in there, but the Giants also haven't made the best decisions over the last 3 years, so I can't say that this is out of character for them either.
Yeah, I mean, if they did draft a guy, like they could move Winston for a 7th round pick for a backup role too. So it's not like it would be all three going into the season. It gives them options, but it also gives them flexibility to go elsewhere if they decide to wait for a quarterback in the upcoming years.
Very true there. And then this obviously brings it back to one veteran quarterback sitting out there looking for a home. Hashtag Rogers watch. I think it's officially back now that we see everything. Every other domino has fallen except for this one. And there's still a lot of talks about Rodgers going to the Vikings. The Vikings seem to shut it down, but then this week they had mentioned that they're still in talks. They want JJ McCarthy to be their QB1 going into the season, but they're not ruling out Aaron Rodgers. Where do you think that conversation is going to end up going?
Yeah, I think it's like I've seen a lot of the talks and stuff like that. I think it is worth noting, like a lot of that stemmed from their GMs being like, if I said never, like I'm not doing my job justice, or basically. So like, I think in all honesty, they want to play JJ McCarthy, but I think Rodgers would prefer to go to Minnesota because the team's better than Pittsburgh, right?
Mhm.
But it seems like it's now down between Minnesota and Pittsburgh, and it's just a matter of time. I think Rodgers will decide one way or another before the draft. So I think we could have up to 3 more weeks of this. But I don't think we go into the draft, on the off chance Pittsburgh goes Jackson Dart or maybe Shadur falls, whatever, round one and rules it off the table, and then he's with no place. I think he'll wait, um, at least for the draft to happen. Maybe it'll drop on draft night because a couple years ago he drops the news that he wanted to get traded on draft night, and draft happened and everyone talked about Aaron Rodgers. Maybe he'll do it again this year.
That would be the most Rodgers thing to happen, but I do agree. I think this is decisions made before the draft, especially because it's not like there's 4 teams out there that are fighting for this. The Vikings still do seem out, and I don't know why the Steelers would wait any longer to just, make the move if they're going to, or if they're not going to. Rodgers either is going to have to settle for a backup role somewhere, or he's going to retire. And I don't think that's likely, but the Pittsburgh's the only starting option left for him.
Or if he went to Minnesota, he would start. They would.
Yeah, but I still am not sure Minnesota would, be like, okay, fine, we'll pull that trigger. I think they legitimately are looking at, we're going to ride JJ McCarthy. And, whatever comes with that, even if we end up having a down year trying to bring it back up, they think that that's probably their better long-term option.
Yeah, I mean, people do have to remember JJ is a quarterback that did not have a lot of passing attempts in college. He's coming off of a, pretty significant knee injury that did have complications that set him back. Now it sounds like things are progressing in the right direction and he is doing well now, but he's never started. And I think it's also some, the front office wants to go with the guy they drafted, but like Kevin O'Connell might want the veteran because he saw how close his team was last year. So not that any of that's been reported, that's just pure speculation on my end, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's some, I don't want to say butting of heads, but back and forth going on in there. But it is also worth noting that Rodgers did spend about 6 hours with the Pittsburgh or at the Pittsburgh facility, since the time we recorded with you. Had a good meeting. Everything sounded like it went positive. And it does seem like Mike Tomlin is actually a big driver for this. Rodgers respects Tomlin. Tomlin wants Rodgers to be the quarterback. He wants a veteran in there. So I really do think it's just a matter of time before he's in black and gold.
And obviously, if anything like that breaks beforehand, we'll keep you updated on our socials. We'll post something on our Twitter for you. So make sure you follow us there. But we will talk about it next week if that breaks. If not, we'll keep you updated on any hearings that we do have. Wide receiver news. Patriots have been looking for their guy. There were rumors that DK Metcalf, they were in deep talks for him, and DK did not want to go there. Speaking of people into Pittsburgh. But they did find their wide receiver one, signing Stephon Diggs to a contract.
Yeah, they also, Chris Godwin took $20 million less to go back to Tampa Bay than to New England, but they get Diggs. Seems like it'd be a good fit. Now he is coming off of a massive or, pretty significant injury when tearing the ACL in his 30s for a wide receiver. So we'll see how he bounces back for that, but he got one heck of a payday.
Yes, he did. And I don't think they're going to shy away from using him as long as he can handle that workload, you said, coming off the injury, because they have not a whole lot around him.
Yeah, and I don't think this takes them out of, taking a wide receiver early. Like they need pieces there. So
they need somebody who can more long-term be with Drake May in that offense.
For sure.
And then other wide receivers, Puka Nacua came out and said something interesting this week, where he said that he is going to retire at age 30. Obviously, we've heard this from other people before. We've also had people retire earlier in their career without saying anything. The most notable person that said something similar to this was Tyreek Hill, who I believe is coming up 1 or 2 years away from his end of his contract when he said he was going to retire. We'll see if that actually happens. What are your thoughts on Puka just setting that deadline of 30 years old, I'm out?
I mean, I'm not surprised. I mean, I think we'll see that more and more as these contracts get bigger and bigger. Like these guys, they'll get their big payday and then they'll go on. Like, I mean, Barry Sanders did it. Now Calvin Johnson retired early. We've seen players time and time again retire earlier and earlier to try to protect themselves from the long-term effects of playing the game, CTE, just aches and pains on your body. So Puka saying he's going to retire at 30 does not surprise me. I did want to talk to you about this, though. are you concerned, like, dynasty at all? Like, I know we're still talking, like, 7 years away. Like, are you overlook is this like, well, he's at an all-time high now, and if he's gonna have a shorter year, maybe I start considering trading him, or it's like, bro, he's 23. Let's not overreact.
No, I am not overreacting right now. I mean,
Me
we
neither.
look
I just wanna make
ahead.
that very clear.
We
I
look
was just
ahead when we're talking about dynasty, but like when I say that, I mean like 3-4 years usually. I'm not looking further than that.
yeah, I mean, the group of people you're playing with probably aren't even gonna be together in 7 years, so
Very true. And if you're in a league that's been around that long, I still make a bet that 4 years from now, Puka's 26, 27, you can start thinking about moving him then and someone's still going to bite on that as long as he's still playing at this production level.
yeah, 100%. But I am really fascinated to see how he looks now with Devontae Adams. I think it's gonna be such a fun team in Los Angeles this year's upcoming season.
That Rams team right back in contention now, not a dark horse like they have been in the last year. So it's going to be interesting for sure. All right. We're talking draft. Why don't we go back to last year and we're going to look at the first round of last year's draft and redraft now that we know how these guys did for a full season.
No, absolutely. And you might be going, why are you talking about redrafting this year's draft? It's the start of draft season. We're digging into the prospect, but we want to take a look back and look at the rookies. And now some very clear asterisks, caveats, whatever you want to point with this. This is just an exercise. We are not claiming anyone to be, a future Hall of Famer. We're not claiming anyone to be a bust. It takes about 3 years to effectively grade your drafts and the players and how much they develop in the course of that time. But as a fun exercise, see where teams are, knowing what we know now. If we could go back and do it again, which we can't, how would it take place? We're going to go through all 32 first round picks. And it's going to be a little bit of a discussion between George and myself. We'll just alternate who has the final say. So, George, pick one was originally the Chicago Bears taking Caleb Williams. Are you sticking with him?
This is tough. This can kind of set the tone for the whole draft. I also want to just start with no trades. We're gonna stick with the draft order that picked last year, just to make it easier on us because we could go crazy if we really wanted to, but that's not gonna happen. I think it's between two guys that pick one, and there's one quarterback that just did way better. So I'm actually gonna have the Bears taking Jaden Daniels at pick one, not Caleb Williams.
I'm not surprised there. Now, you said between two quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Does that mean Caleb was still in consideration?
I think Caleb was still in consideration there because obviously it was their guy and they saw some good things. There's still a chance that you could come here at pick 2 and say Commanders and pick a different quarterback other than Caleb, and I wouldn't be shocked. I think Caleb just had a little bit more value on the Bears in my head because of the familiarity, and we saw it happen.
Yeah, I'm gonna say they just swap. I'm gonna say Caleb goes number 2. I understand if people would be like, why wouldn't they take Drake May or maybe even Bo Nix?
Yeah.
But I'm going to stay with Caleb at 2 and then let the draft unfold.
All right, so Bears switching to Jaden Daniels, Commanders getting Caleb Williams. Pick 3 was originally Patriots Drake May, and I think they still have to stick quarterback. I'm between two quarterbacks again here, and that's them sticking with Drake May or them going to Bo Nix. What would your thoughts be if they would switch?
So I think that's a really fascinating thing, a part of this exercise, right? Like Drake May, high upside still, younger team, not as many pieces. If you switch the two players in their systems, does Drake May do as well as Bo Nix did? Does Bo Nix, uh, you know, do what he did on a different team, not with Sean Payton, not with the Denver Broncos? I'm right there with you. It's between those two guys for me. I kind of want to stick with Drake May. I think he does still have, even to this day, have a higher ceiling, but would not be upset at all if you were like, we've seen Bo Nix. Let's give the Patriots a quarterback and take Bo Nix. He was the better quarterback this past year.
So when I was thinking about how to handle this exercise, I was like, if there's two players that are very close and one of them was already on that team, I would probably lean keeping them on that team. And I think that's where we're at in this situation. And you can argue if Bo Nix was with that offensive core in New England that was not fantastic, it probably would have been flipped where Drake May had a better year in Denver. So
let me ask you this before you lock in your final pick.
mm-hmm.
And I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
But what if you take Drake May,
Mm-hmm.
do you anticipate taking Bo Nix before Denver? And then vice versa, if Drake May is available, do you anticipate taking him anywhere? Because if you think Bo Nix is going to move up the draft boards and then Drake May just happens to go to Denver at pick 12 because they need a quarterback and he's still on the board because we haven't swapped him, maybe the pick is Bo Nix.
And I do think both would go off the board before we get back down to Denver, at least in how I'm envisioning this going. I'm not sure about you.
Okay. I think there's, one spot for sure. So it was just an interesting thought, but if you make your pick and we'll move on.
I'm gonna stick with Drake May, and we'll see how this falls after. I know maybe that's not the exciting way to go, but at the same time, I don't know if there's a wrong pick for the Patriots there. Like they got somebody who's gonna help them, and even if you redrafted and they took Drake May again, I don't think anyone's gonna be mad about that. That's not the problem with their team at this point.
No, for sure. So pick 4, we're on. That's the Cardinals. They originally took Marvin Harrison Jr. They needed a pass catcher. I think it's definitely he's back up on the table there. And then of course you have Malik Neighbors, who had, was the number 1 rated rookie wide receiver this past year. Had over an 86 grade on PFF for whatever that's worth. So I am going to flip the pick here. Even though I do think Marvin Harrison has a long future ahead of him, I'm going to go Malik Neighbors at pick 4 for the Cardinals.
I like it right there. I was going to say to do the exact same thing, but now we're on to the Chargers. I'm a Chargers fan. I don't know what you're talking about. I hate that you probably had me pick first just so I could make the Chargers pick here.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Anyway, they could use wide receiver help. If you think about it, when we're taking this activity, they don't have Ladd McConkey on their roster because that hasn't happened yet. So we could argue they take Marvin Harrison here. But they originally took Joe Alt. They really needed the offensive lineman help. That worked for them, I think. But I don't know if it was good enough to justify them still sticking with that pick at 5.
I would 100% take Joe Alt again for the Chargers. With that head coach, that scheme, the highest rated tackle, according to PFF, from a rookie perspective, Joe Alt to the Chargers was like the easiest pencil in for me. Not saying it's your call, you get to make it, but that for me was that one staying the same.
No, I think the idea of seeing other wide receivers that made an impact up there makes me think like, oh, they still could use that wide receiver, but I have no problem with sticking with Joe Alt, and you convinced me. So we're going to stick with Joe Alt, the Chargers pick. They did good there at pick 5.
All right, the Giants, you ready?
I am ready because this is one of those places. Bo Nix, there you go. So originally that was Malik Neighbors. They get a quarterback. And it's interesting looking at it from here because they still had Daniel Jones trying to make work when they had this draft originally. But now we're looking at it as we know Daniel Jones didn't work.
Yes.
Going out there and getting Bo Nix. Then when they did release Daniel Jones, Bo Nix steps right in. I think they have a much more success in that team.
100% agree.
Next up, the Titans. Titans had a lot of holes. They went offensive lineman. They took J.C. Latham. And again, I think this is one of those picks that's not going to be super exciting, but I think probably makes sense to hold there. They need to fill some holes on the line, on both lines, honestly, before they really go out there and make those splash picks.
So I agree. Like if you're building a team, build through the trenches. 100% agree with that. My only question for you is, does the fact that they drafted J.C. Latham, play left tackle, then they go out and spend the most amount of money on Dan Moore to come in and play left tackle, and now J.C. Latham is projected to move to the right side. Does that change your opinion at all with a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr.? They need wide receiver help still on the board.
It definitely makes me think. And I mean, I think if Bo Nix didn't go to the Giants right before here, that seemed like another good fit as well, especially knowing that they still need the quarterback help too. And Bo Nix could really fill a need long term. There's a couple other quarterbacks out here, at least one that you could argue like maybe he should go here too. But it's hard for me to figure out how to fill the Titans roster.
And is Marvin Harrison Jr. even the next best wide receiver? That's another question.
I personally think there's probably two guys I would take before him.
There's not two for me. There's one I'd have a conversation, but there's not two.
I think I just saw so much inconsistency out of Harrison, and I think I'm also hurt having him in fantasy that maybe I'm biased against it right now, but the upside's still there. It's not like saying he's a bust.
For sure. And he still had a pretty solid season in terms of rookie standards.
So because we're talking this out and I'm just making the final decision, would you go away from offensive linemen if you were picking for the Titans?
I think I just don't know if after what we've seen, again, this is why this is such a hard, like, projecting forward.
Yeah.
Like, is JC Latham the best value at pick 7 at this point based on what we know? Knowing that they went out and paid top dollar for another left tackle to move him to the side. Is he the best offensive lineman still left on the board? He's probably still the best tackle left. Like, I have no problems with him staying, but it was just there is some value players at the wide receiver end, and you said the Titans have a bunch of holes. So I think we can go either way, but if you want to stick with the trenches, we stick with the trenches.
I think for this, we're just going to stick with the trenches. We're going to stick with JC Latham here, but a couple different ways we could have gone. And I'm interested to see now where you go Falcons.
Jared Verse.
Falcons get away from taking the quarterback and they go Jared Verse.
Yeah. Do you want me to tell you that their front seven is not great as it is?
No, I totally agree. This is a good fit. Were they the worst pass rush team in the NFL last year?
I believe they were. They haven't addressed it in free agency. So yeah, I'm taking Jared Verse with the Falcons. Like, their depth chart is not great. It is refreshing. Here, I'm going to read you their defensive ends. Okay. And I don't know what yellow means on here. Oh, they got Morgan Fox. They got Arnold Ebiketie. They got Taquan Graham, Zach Harrison, Junior Aho. I don't know how to pronounce that one. Brandon Delorius.
Probably, I think.
Like, I just, if you want to go to the outside linebacker, because sometimes they're the pass catcher, I mentioned, I said Arnold Ebiketie. They have David Onyemata. Like, it's just people that are just names, sound like Madden names. Let them get the premier pass rusher from the rookie class so far, and Jared Verse.
I like it. I'm not shocked at all by that pick. I just think it was an interesting place to go because you can look at it on the fact of, like, they originally took Michael Penix. You think he's going to be their future quarterback now looking at it, but they do still have Kirk Cousins on the roster, and he did get benched. Like, it's a tough juggling act when you're trying to redraft this one on, do they stick quarterback and Penix is probably the best guy left, or did they go find another need that they probably needed more urgently?
No, I completely agree. And I think we go with the need on a weak spot of the roster at a premier position. Wow. Those words together did not go well for me, but it helps figure out, the trenches. And now we're on to the Bears, and I'm interested to see what you do here.
So originally they took Roma Dunze. Roma Dunze had a fine rookie year, but they have other wide receivers in the system that pretty much led the way so far this year. I'm still going to try to find weapons for Caleb Williams, but after seeing how good he was in his rookie year, I'm actually going to go ahead and snag Brock Bowers for the Bears.
Brock Bowers. All right, I like that.
I think out of the pass catching options, they already, like I said, they already have a couple wide receivers there. Brock Bowers is definitely near the top of the pass catching options left, and they can put another tight end in there like that and still find a way to make their offense hum.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. I have no arguments there. Vikings, they're at 10 here. Obviously, they took JJ McCarthy last year. The question is, would they do that again? And honestly, they won, 13, 14 games last year. So it's
Yep.
not like they have a ton of holes. They have another pick coming up later in the draft from some trades they made. And again, we're not doing trades, but we're counting the trades that happened during the draft, not the original order. So yeah, I'm going to let them go ahead and keep with JJ McCarthy unless there's someone else out there that you think I should go with.
So knowing JJ McCarthy is a question mark, it's like he is being drafted this year because we have nothing on him besides the fact that it seems like the organization likes him after having him in house for a year. Was there any question of going like Michael Penix instead?
Yeah, I mean, I think I still was going to go quarterback. If you wanted to talk me into Michael Penix, sure. I just figured I would kind of what you said, like if it was between two people and it was really close, you're just going to let them go with the guy that they picked. That was kind of my difference maker in this one.
Makes sense to me. So we're going to stick with JJ McCarthy on the Vikings. I have no problem with that. I just wanted to start the debate and see if you thought about elsewhere. Jets pick 11. They took Olu Fashanu. He's an offensive tackle. And now knowing Rodgers didn't work out, I'm actually going to pivot and say they got lucky that Michael Penix fell down to pick 11. I'm going to have Michael Penix go to the Jets.
Wow. That's interesting.
I mean, Justin Fields might end up being their guy, but I think if they had the choice of going out there and getting a rookie quarterback to be that guy now, you could see that being an option.
I'm just still shocked. I did not see that coming at all.
Where did you think he was going to? Where do you think I was going to go?
I thought you would stick with Olu there, maybe go down to Talis Fuaga because he had a nice season. Maybe go with the interior guy in Dominique Punai. Maybe you go and get them Roma Dunze or maybe add to the defensive side of the ball. Did not
There's a
expect
lot of places you could have went. That's true.
you to go quarterback there, but you did, and you have that right to make the pick. All right, so then I was planning to take Penix for the Broncos.
Yep. And that's the other thing. Like, I mean, maybe if we were doing trades, the Broncos move ahead to make sure they get that. Maybe someone else that needs a quarterback moves up there knowing the Broncos are going to take a quarterback, but we're not, making trades, obviously.
Yeah, but there's no quarterback here now for the Broncos. So go ahead and give me Brian Thomas Jr. for them.
It's a good move. I think that was so we're obviously still sitting here. Marvin Harrison still on the board. Brian Thomas was one of the two guys that I said I would, debate taking over him. So I like that move.
I would have taken him, but I feel like I would have taken him over Thomas. But in terms of their team, like I feel like that would put him and Cortland Sutton are very similar players. I feel like the Brian Thomas field stretcher would be an interesting move. And I also didn't even mean to ask you with the Jets because we're doing a lot of this as now, like you mentioned Fields. But in the moment of the draft, I guess would you have like thought of the Devontae Adams 12-week experience? Like, did that play any affect you? Like, they had Devontae and they still weren't good, so they don't need a receiver; they need a quarterback. Like, did that play any?
I mean, when you think about it, we're trying to think of this like how they would have done it at that point. So maybe Michael Penix wasn't the best pick there, but you have to know that if they had a quarterback that they could see potentially being a stud, which I think Penix showed that he has some kind of upside since he had a successful run at the end of the season, And you know that Rodgers isn't going to be there long term. Even if you're expecting Rodgers to be there for that year or two, you have to start looking ahead at some point if you're the Jets, or they're just going to end up with the same situation as all these other teams that are just trying to recycle quarterbacks. And I mean, that's obviously what they're doing in real life right now. I think the smart move to go out to get that quarterback that has the upside, especially when you got to get him at pick 11.
All right. You like it. You're back on the clock, 13 with the Raiders. Originally took Brock Bowers. In our simulation, he is no longer available. So what do you got?
They could still use a wide receiver. Marvin Harrison's still sitting there. I think that's where I'm going to go with this pick. Do you have any arguments against that?
No, that's who I was going to take if it was
All
my
right.
pick.
So we're going to stick Marvin Harrison on the Raiders. Falls a lot further than he did in the original draft, but still goes in the top 15.
Yeah, and then that puts the Saints up there. They took Taliz Fuaga, 14th overall. He had an okay season with the Saints. I mean, we could keep him there too. Again, it's also hard to really project offensive linemen and whatnot. But just because there was some other guys that had better seasons, I'm going to go ahead and take Dominic Punai, the guard. It's a different position, but I'm going to take the guard there for the Saints. Was the highest rated rookie offensive lineman, not just tackles, guards, and centers on PFF. Again, for what that's worth to you. But give me him at number 14.
All right. I like it. I mean, they're another team that I feel like is similar to the Titans at this point where they have a lot of holes they need to fill. It's probably better if they try to shore up the offensive defensive lines as they start moving forward. So I don't hate that pick. Moving on to the Colts, they originally took Latu. I can't say that name. It's horrible.
Latu. It's
Latu.
the same. I know it's spelled different. It's the same.
It's the same. That's horrible.
It's Latu.
That's horrible.
At least that's what I think it is. I don't even really know.
It probably is. Obviously, he had a decent year, but not somebody who really lit up the sheet, by the fact that we haven't heard that name too much. I think I'm going to have them stick on the defensive line, but I'm going to have them go to another Rams player who I think really stood out. And I'm thinking Braden Fisk here.
Going interior. Okay.
Yeah. Any arguments with that?
No, I was expecting him to stay the same, but I like it. I like the switch up. Makes it interesting.
It would be interesting if he did still go to the Rams because he technically wasn't their first round pick, but he did go to that team. But no, I have him going 15 to the Colts. So similar position, but we go interior instead of exterior on the defensive line.
No, that's great. For me, the Seahawks are back up. We have the one and only Byron Murphy the second coming in here, trying to figure things out. Do I want to keep him? Do I not? And I'm not. As much as I like Byron Murphy, I'm going to go to his Texas teammate, Devondre Sweat, the massive mountain man that guy is, and take him over Byron Murphy for this exercise. If you told me in 3 years Murphy ends up being the better because he has a more all-around game where Sweat is more of just the massive run stuffer, I get it. But Sweat had the better season, so we're sticking with the Texas D tackles, but we're going to go to Devondre Sweat.
Okay. I have no problem with that one either. I think that makes a lot of sense there. But it's funny we have some more interior guys going here in the earlier part of the draft. Normally we wouldn't have DTs going this high in a regular draft, at least not multiple.
I mean, it's a good range for it. This is where like Jordan Davis went, Dexter Lawrence went. Like this is the good range for, elite defensive tackles. So I don't hate it. It's also like coming off of the Super Bowl. Obviously, that's recency bias where the defensive line dominated. Offensive line is important. Like if this was like September, we were doing this and we're all excited about our new fantasy toys and stuff like that, we might not be going this, but what we've seen last times, I like it. But you're up with the Minnesota Vikings for their second pick, who they originally took, Dallas Turner.
They did originally take Dallas Turner. He did fine, but it's interesting to me. I think the link that you sent me is not correct with stats. Because there's no way Dallas Turner had 10 sacks last year. He had 3. That makes a lot more sense to me.
Yeah, Dallas Turner did not have 10 sacks.
Yeah, so Cody's trying to really throw me off on the air here. That's a great time. This is a point where I think they kind of get away from Dallas Turner, but they stick with the same position. I was debating Byron Murphy here. Is there another edge that you like better?
If you were going to go edge, I'd go Chop Robinson. He had a solid season, and just versus edge versus interior, so that's kind of where I would lean there. But
like you said, not a lot of places that they needed help with, but I think having an edge on that team would help. That's one of those things where it's like when you're good, you're trying to find pretty much the luxury positions, which would be running back. I mean, as good as there's one pretty good running back that might go in here and somewhere in this first round. It's not that case here. Or edge. Like you can never have enough edge rushers. So I like your idea here. I'm going to go Chop Robinson to the Vikings at 17.
all right, I'm up with the Bengals at 18. They originally took Amarius Mims. He only played in 7 games last year, dealt with some injuries. I think he has all the upside in the world, but because of his lack of availability, I'm not going to take him here. George is going to get irritated. That team needs defensive help. Give me Quinyon Mitchell to the Bengals.
I'm not mad at that at all. I was curious if he was gonna go any earlier than pick 18. This is the big round where we thought he was gonna go in the actual draft last year.
I honestly was like, once you took Michael Penix, I was like, screw it, give me Quinyon and why am I blanking on the defensive player of the year? Surtain. Just give me those 2 guys.
Could you imagine? They already were locked down for most of the year last year.
Yeah, that's what I was like. Just give me Quinyon and him. I almost went there, but then I was like, Cody, calm down just because George took your pick. Don't get too crazy.
Man, yeah, that would have been something. But no, they end up with a better situation going Brian Thomas. Quinyon Mitchell to the Bengals. That would have been huge for them trying to stop the bleeding last year. They might have only been the second or third worst defense instead of the worst.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Maybe they made the playoffs.
Maybe they would have made the playoff. They were close, regardless. Rams, pick 19. Originally took Jared Verse. Like Cody said, we were thinking Braden Fisk here too, but he also is off the board. I think edge still makes sense. A lot of those edges off the board. So we still have Telis Fuaga on here. What other edges would you consider here?
Well, Telis Fuaga's an offensive lineman.
Oh, my bad. I'm completely.
It's all good. Edges on the board. You still have Dallas Turner if you wanted to go for him. I mean, you have Byron Murphy, who's more of an interior pass rusher.
Yep.
That's pretty much probably it in terms of edges. Unfortunately, you could go back to the cornerback market if you so wanted to, with a guy like Cooper DeJean, who wasn't a first round pick, or if you wanted to go with Andrew Phillips, had a nice year for the New York Giants. On that end, you could go offensive lineman if you wanted to, because they need that as well. But yeah, honestly, the Rams hit a home run in Jared Verse, and the way this goes, it feels like no matter what, they're downgrading.
Exactly. It's just one of those things where they're not going to win this regardless. You convinced me on offensive line.
Did I?
You did, because thinking about it, I think back to the beginning of the season for them and how they could not get anything going because of their offensive line. It did start to shore up later in the year when they got healthy, but I think they could still use the help.
So you go on Telis Fuaga?
I think I'm going to go Telis Fuaga.
Okay, well, that stinks because that was my pick for the, Pittsburgh Steelers.
They also took an offensive lineman, though.
Because they took Troy Fatanu here, and now I'm like, now where am I going to go with that pick here? And Where to go? This is where it gets interesting when people snipe your pick right before it. Just like in a fantasy draft, you're like, oh, and I got to pivot here. But I'll go ahead and give them Zach Frazier, the center. They got him in the second or third round last year. He was the highest graded center in terms of rookies at PFF. So Zach Frazier, same team, just different round.
I like it. I think they had to stick offensive line, and that is a good pick for them. Number 21, Dolphins. They originally took Chop Robinson. He went to pick 17 to the Vikings in this one, so that's not an option for them. I'm probably thinking either Byron Murphy or Dallas Turner for this one. Is there anyone else you'd consider?
No, I think I'm with you there too, and I think I would lean Byron Murphy on this one, just because
Dallas Turner probably just didn't show quite as much.
Yeah, I mean Murphy didn't have the most elite season, but he definitely has the upside. So
Byron Murphy at 21 to the Dolphins. Eagles back up. Quinyon Mitchell was already taken. There's another one of their corners that could have went in the first round that is still on the board.
Yeah, let's give it to him. Same like the Steelers. They're going to get one of their guys that they took later. Just going to get him now. We'll give him Cooper DeJean.
I think that was the right match on that one. Going to the Jaguars at 23, original pick Brian Thomas. He's off the board. Still some other wide receivers hanging around. I personally really like Ladd McConkey in this spot.
Okay. I don't hate it.
They still get their wide receiver. They got somebody who was very effective. He moves into the first round where he was not a first round pick last year.
Yeah, I don't mind that one at all. For the Lions, for me, it's really close between do I want Terrion Arnold back or do I want you take a flyer on a different cornerback, Andrew Phillips, Mike Sanders still. I'll keep the consistency. It's close, same position. They'll keep their guy in Terrion Arnold.
I think that was the right move. He did totally fine last year in that position, except for he did miss some time with injury, but who didn't?
And he also is a little grabby, but that's why they're trying to propose the rule to not make that automatic first down.
And we'll see how that works for them. Packers pick 25 originally took offensive lineman Jordan Morgan. I want to hear your take on where they should go on this one, with you being the Packers fan.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jordan Morgan dealt with some injuries. He has all the upsides in the world. But Edgerrin Cooper sitting there, the guy they took in the second round, giving him in the first round, defensive rookie of the month in December, like fits the team, fits what they need. Just mark it right down, Edgerrin Cooper.
That's what I was thinking as well. Just being as I think he moves up after seeing, how well he did in this exercise. So the Packers still being able to go get him, I think is the natural fit on this one. So Edgerrin Cooper stays with the Packers, but goes in the first round to pick 25.
Yeah, I like that. Buccaneers. I'm going to stray away from going with Graham Barton. I could go with him. I could go another offensive lineman. But there's one player that's a rookie that made a big impact on their team. That's Bucky Irving. And we don't get running backs in the first round very often. But give me Bucky Irving to the Buccaneers in round 1.
That is a great move. And it is interesting because that was a pick I was eyeballing to the Cowboys in a few picks. So if he did not go back to the Buccaneers, I was looking at Bucky Irving to the Cowboys at 29.
I like it. Now the Cardinals are up with Darius Robinson. Is he going back to Arizona or will they be going a different direction?
Darius Robinson, for those who don't know, defensive tackle. He had a decent year. I'm trying to look up some stats because Cody's stats failed me, so I have to go on the fly here.
Hey, I think they just had a typo on that guy. My bad.
No, they had a typo on us. A lot of guys looking at it because Cody sends me something here that tells me that Michael Penix threw for almost 5,000 yards. And JJ McCarthy
college
for almost
stats.
3,000. It could be.
Now you know.
Yeah, it really could be. But how about that? So Cody really throwing off my pre-production planning. Shout out Neil if you're listening.
Do your own. Don't rely on me or ChatGPT.
Man, I thought I did, but apparently. Anyway, where are we
I mean,
at here? Go ahead.
I mean, I was gonna say if you need some help here, I think we stay with the defensive line and just take the guy that went originally pick 17.
Going taking Dallas Turner.
Yeah.
Dallas Turner showing more than Darius Robinson did. Darius Robinson only played 6 games last year, so he's definitely somebody that's in lockdown category. I like going Dallas Turner, so we're going to take him 27 to the Cardinals.
I like it.
28.
I like it a lot.
Original
What do I
pick,
got?
Xavier Worthy to the Chiefs. Xavier Worthy did come on to the end of the year.
He did. And I think he's in play here
Yeah.
just because they needed him, so to speak. They needed some wide receiver help. There's another wide receiver or two that I think could be in this conversation. I think you could also look at offensive line if you wanted to, just based on what we saw in the Super Bowl. Like
Yes.
if you wanted to take an offensive lineman here, we could. But I will let them keep Xavier Worthy.
I think that's the right move for them, but definitely other things that could have been in consideration. 29 to the Cowboys. Originally, they took offensive lineman Tyler Guyton. I really wanted to see Bucky Irving fall to here, and I thought that was like a dream pick. With that not being the case, I think they stick offensive line. Any of the guys that were not drafted in the first round that are left that you like better, I think it's probably going to end up sticking Tyler Guyton.
I would not go Tyler Guyton on this one. I would rather take Jordan Morgan, and maybe that's just the Packers fan in me. I would rather take him. I think he has a little bit more higher upside. I would also consider, I know we've been, excluding people that were hurt, but Troy Fatanu had limited snaps, but he at least looked the part in those limited snaps.
Mm-hmm.
So I would go with him. But it's your call.
I'll agree with you on Fatanu. I'll go with that with the upside, especially seeing as like last year ended up being a scrap year. Now knowing that they added, they got the injury bug out, they got somebody with high upside. I kind of like that for them.
Yeah, and just for anyone out there who's like, what about Tyler Guyton? Again, take these with a line or a grain of salt, whatever you want. In terms of PFF grades, he had a 49.4. So
it's pretty bad.
Where Fatanu was 64.4, and you might say that's not great. A 60 is average for PFF grades, which is just a weird system, but that's the average grade. So he was slightly above average in his limited snaps.
All right, Ravens pick 30. Original pick, cornerback Nate Wiggins.
Yeah, I think that he's in play there too. Like the cornerback fit was, a big component of that one. I'm sure they would have loved if one of the Eagles guys would have fell to this point. Like I mentioned, it's close again between Nate Wiggins, Tyke Smith, Andrew Phillips. So let's just stick with Nate Wiggins at this point.
He played a pretty big part in that defense's rebound in the second half of the year. So I think that's a good pick to have him staying there. My final pick 31, 49ers, originally took Ricky Pearsall. And despite his unfortunate accident at the beginning of the season, he rebounded to be someone that they relied on pretty heavily near the end of the year. And I think it's somebody who is at least in consideration here because he's going to be part of their future now, seeing that they trade away Deebo Samuel.
Yeah. I think we messed up big time. I think we skipped over a name. But that's all good.
Over a name. Well, we'll see who ends up on the Panthers, is what I'm guessing you're saying here. I'll stick with Pearsall for the 49ers.
Yeah, this looks bad. I honestly want to I want to at least take Xavier Worthy out. At least go to there. I think he should go much higher. At this point in hindsight, I would put him all the way up at the Seattle Seahawks at 16. One Mr. Roma Dunze got overlooked. So
Now you
obviously,
say that, and I think he did fine, but the fact that you're looking at DJ Moore, who's kind of a, he's pretty good, but and then an end of his career, Keenan Allen, and he couldn't really separate himself from those guys. Does he deserve to go that high? Maybe yes, because he already had the upside of going as high as he did, but
yes,
would I
he
take
does.
him over Lad McConkey? No. Would I take him over Xavier Worthy? Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, and I said I would consider him, and I would take him over Lad McConkey. I would consider him at the Seahawks based on what we know now, because Lad McConkey and JSN play the same spot. So it's about team building. So I would take Roma Dunze up at 16, but he didn't go there. I would definitely take him over Ricky Purcell, but the Panthers, they got a big one. You make a post out of this, it's going viral because it seems like the Packers fan hates the Bears guy. So
Well, I will give you the benefit of the doubt and put him in for Xavier Worthy, because I would not have taken Worthy in any of those spots that I had been in the middle. But
yeah, put him at 32. Put him at 32. That's how the draft. Sometimes mistakes are made. Sometimes they happen live on air. That's one of the beautiful things about doing this on the show.
yeah.
I was just clicking through and I was like, wait a second. I don't think we ever took Roma Dunze. Here I am taking you're taking Brandon Fisk. I'm taking Bucky Irving, Dallas Turner. And I don't again, people, if you haven't been a long time listening to the show, I loved Roma Dunze coming out. So that there's also some recency bias of that. But he came on strong at the end of the year. I think now that he is going to be, in line to be the true number 2, I think he's going to have a good season. But the Panthers luck out; they get Roma Dunze. And if he wasn't there, you could have talked me into Jalen Coker just because of how well he played in those couple games. But then I was like, no way in the world am I not getting Roma Dunze on this list.
Yeah, and I think maybe it is a little bit of you bias, and maybe I'm the one that's wrong too. And if people listen, I'll get ripped apart here too for saying it. But yeah, does he deserve to be higher than 32? Yeah, maybe we missed on that. Maybe I should definitely take him over Pearsall. I could see him going over Worthy. I don't see it much higher than that. But I wasn't as impressed, and I wasn't as big of a fan of him coming out as Cody was.
I mean, you act like for a number 3 wide receiver. Again, I don't want to turn into a Roma Dunze show. Had 100 targets, 54 receptions, 734 yards, 3 touchdowns. As a quote unquote number 3 receiver.
It's fair.
So, yeah, a little bit of a disservice there, in my opinion. But we obviously ain't redoing this whole thing. But that's why I said, like, I wasn't mad that he didn't go in the top 10. For me, the mess up is with the Seattle Seahawks. Again, I don't mind them taking Tavondre Sweat, but after they traded away DK, they let go Tyler Lockett. What we know now, and I get you, like, apples to apples might have said take Lad McConkey over him, but because of building the team and the position of where JSN plays, Roma Dunze is more of an outside guy, where Lad's more of a slot guy, just like JSN. I think Seattle would have been the prime fit for him. But he didn't go there. He went all the way to the Panthers. We're going to live with that.
This is one of the hardest exercises I think that we've ever done, especially live.
Yeah, I mean, that is the big thing. Live going through this. And, it's really just to get us work those muscles, ease us back into draft season, because that's what we're doing the next couple of weeks. We're going to look at the rookies that are coming out, what might be good for Dynasty, what might be good for just the NFL in general. It's not the best draft class this year in terms of a fantasy dynasty. There's not the clear number 1s. Obviously, people know the name Ashton Denty. They know Travis Hunter, but if you're playing dynasty, he might end up playing corner. Never had a player like that if he plays wide receiver, you want him in the top 3 picks of your dynasty draft. He plays corner. Like, are you even in an IDP league? Who knows?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and hopefully we'll know when the team that drafts him does what they call him at the podium. Well, I think will mean a lot.
Yeah, you don't know, but I'm hoping they call him corner. And I don't know how your leagues are set up, but that's something we're going to have to pay attention to. You still get 6 points. He catches a touchdown. Because that's going to be
both sides.
Like, even if he doesn't, like, even if he's, a red zone only guy, or they have a couple plays in there for him. I mean, heck, Mike Vrabel caught 10 touchdowns, right? Like, you can't tell me that Travis Hunter can't do the same. Obviously, he didn't do it in 1 year. That's the course of his career. But
So
exactly. But
yeah.
George, before we get out of here, anything else?
No, I mean, let us know how bad we messed up with not only the Rome Odunze pick, or did your favorite team not take somebody that was left that you thought should have been taken? Let us know in the comments. I'm interested to see how you think we did on this. Doing it live was very difficult, and I'm excited to get into talking about this year's draft with you next week, Cody.
Absolutely, George. I'm really excited to start talking the draft. Like you mentioned at the very top of the show, it is one of my favorite times of where we go back and forth just like this, but with the actual picks and how we want to see that happen. But as always, make sure you're following along at the Couch GMs, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, TikTok, all those good places. Check out the greatest fantasy player ever bracket. I'm Cody Roadcap. That's George Kurth. And we'll talk to you all next week.